There we go. Looks like we should be just fine now. Um, I think. I hope. Um, 1 second. Let me make sure. Yeah, there we go. Hmm. Let's make sure that. Get rid of these. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. Um, one more. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Refresh this. Aha. Yep. There we go. Okay. Turn that off. All right. Move this over the other one. Sorry, guys. Hello. Um. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, I'm a little. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. There we are. Now, so why is it doing this? I don't want to do it this way. Whatever. Yeah, I know. I did that on purpose. Okay, sorry about that. So, what's going on, everybody? This is not Frame Advantage today. This is just, well, obviously not. This is just an update because, well, I'm guessing that anybody that happened to see the last few shows, I don't even know if it was all of them. Oh, geez, hold on just a second. Actually, I think I just turned this off real quick. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that did it. Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing. Oh, geez, I'm still blown out. Well, hopefully it's not going to be too bad, so we'll just deal with it. But it's probably a little bit different than the last time I was on, because last time I was on, you probably wouldn't have heard anything. Now I'm blown out a little often because, well, I think I got it right for the most part, but I'm still kind of trying to fine tune some of the more specific, exact points I want to get just right. But anyway, yeah. Either way, I'm sure most of you guys who were here, you may have been able to see a lot of the. Jeez. That should do it. No, that shouldn't do it. Okay. Back up a little bit. Yeah, that works. So, jeez, wait, every time I say something, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go and say screw it. Yeah, it's kind of obvious that the reasoning, and I'm probably the last one to figure it out. But to the uninitiated, essentially, we had some issues that I did not pick up on right away. It took a while to pick up on, unfortunately, because well, I guess maybe I should actually finally get into the more long version of this, because it's probably gonna. Man, that's really bugging me. Hold on. I don't know why it's that. Okay. There we go. That's better. Okay. Um, I I never really went into some of the more specific bits and pieces about the setup I've got going on here and the show itself. The plans. I went over the plans for the show, but not some of the more important points about, like, for example, what my ultimate goals are with the show, and that's kind of stuff I was going to save for later anyway. But um, well, to be frank, I've been involved in all kinds of creative endeavors for my entire professional career, in every field that I've been in. I've hinted at those things before, but one thing I haven't really gone into is my kind of musical history, which isn't really important for the most part because I never really was particularly successful. It was close. It was actually really close, but um, I didn't really actually succeed in what I was setting out to do. So I never really mentioned it when I talk about my actual past career uh, successes and failures and where they started and stopped and everything. Um, but there was a good chunk of time where I played in bands and was I mean my first band was in high school. I was like 15, 16. Played my first show when I was 16. I remember for sure. Um, and man, played all over the state. Never really played a tour, but played all the venues that were in the area um, and outside the area, for that matter. Um, I don't even know how many bands. Last one had some studio experiences. We had one studio recorded demo album. Then we did one full length album. We almost would have actually been able to. Well, we would have been able to actually get on an indie label, but guys I was with were not exactly committed to that idea of life of musicians, and so they kind of found reasons to not go with the situation, which was, of course, disappointing for me. But you know, that is what it is. But the point I'm gonna, the point I'm leading to mostly is that uh, even though I was never really hands-on involved uh, with the recording or mastering process for any kind of studio stuff, I was always definitely interested in audio engineering and audio production. Um, and after a while, in particular, when um, we first did, I did like a first sort of round of, I guess, videos for a channel of some sort. It was a very, very first time being introduced to a lot of this stuff. It was really because my brother is actually even more so than me. He's far more interested in audio engineering, and he actually went to and took several college courses on the subject, and so he's more of an expert than I am. But um, even though I kind of was uh, an autodidact of several subjects, this being one of them, I just spent a lot of hands-on time learning what everything was and what everything did, and I would ask him questions about usually quality related, like he knows. As a matter of fact, we'll get to that later in this situation, but he knows names, he knows brands, he knows reliability, he knows like what to go with and what to stay away from, essentially, and he also knows some decent amounts about how to set things up. Although he was um, obviously more set up for the music end of things as opposed to broadcasting, and uh, so for me, he was a guitarist, and he was actually damn good. He was really good. Um, I was a drummer mostly, and I say mostly because I also did lead vocals on several bands I was in. But as far as the recording and audio engineering side of things, um, not a ton of hands-on experience except for the broadcasting end, which he wasn't as familiar with, but it wasn't too important for the purposes I needed it for. And in fact, the first audio interface I had was actually his. I kind of just stole it from him most of the time. But it became kind of apparent very quickly that even though I was not planning on doing anything except for just for fun, I was very interested, very interested in like what you could do and what it was like, and basically at the time, like it wasn't like super flooded with people that were streaming all the time, and specifically in gaming streams, because uh, I got my NES when I was 6, um, and I've been playing video games like a nerd all my life. But uh, I didn't really want to do anything cheesy, but I also wanted to do something that was more communicate, like with communication and with other people. And so the first channel was with my brother. The second channel was with some friends, and they they didn't do anything special, but it was fun. And uh, it was right after my uh, my long, like several years long time tattooing. So, um, but this is all like pre-COVID, mind you, and I don't even know. I don't want to know what kind of restrictions there are on tattooing right now because they're well. I'm getting off subject. I'll just say real quick. Um, when I was all just before I left, there was a new batch of regulations that passed. And believe me, I understand why. You want tattoo shops to be safe, of course, but um, you already have to be certified in contamination control, and bloodborne pathogens, um, and you also have to know how to work autoclave to sterilize equipment. You have to know what can be sterilized and reused and what can't, et cetera, et cetera. So, um, and essentially the regulations that came in this time were so uh, overly protective that they made things very difficult on a lot of tattooers in the area. The biggest of which was that if you wanted to even autoclave anything, oh, bam, sorry. If you really wanted to autoclave anything, you had to keep this super detailed log about every single detail of and the packages that they were in had to be labeled the same way. And not once did anyone ever come in when I was in there to check on any of this stuff, but um, it was like everybody was nervous about that, but it was just a situation where you could either do all that, or you could just get single-use disposable plastic tubes if you've ever been to a tattooer, the piece of the machine that's gripped by the artist is obviously it's called a grip, but there's reusable steel, stainless steel grips usually, and then you have plastic, and they come pre-sterilized just like all needles do. Um, but the problem is that it kills your wrist because when you have the steel, it acts as a counterweight to the machine while it's buzzing, and when you're using the plastic, it doesn't. So not only is it harder to keep the machine upright the whole time, but it kills your hand after a long piece, especially when you're doing more delicate shading and things like that. It's just like the way your hand has to move. It is like 4 times as much work on your hand than it would be if you're using a steel tube. And then there's different grip sizes that can help with that too. But anyway, um, the point is that since after COVID, I still knew some people who worked in shops, but to be honest, I'd kind of gotten sick and tired of and still am kind of sick and tired of because it's a very. I got into it because I didn't like the office culture, and I realized after I left, like it's the same thing. It's just everybody tries to look hardcore, so. Um, at least the places I worked at, but they're not at all any different. They'll stab you in the back as soon as they can if they think they're gonna be able to win a client over or something. It's really just a lot of phony people that will tell you they're your best friend until there's a client involved that they know or think is going to be worth several appointments. So anyway, but as far as the medical and health concerns for the shops, I don't even want to know what that's like right now. I haven't talked to anybody since then that's still in the field. One of my best friends in the field actually passed away, but Anyway, that's I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry. Back to the other stuff, the other topic, the main one. Um, I decided that I was gonna just kind of see where I could go because just to be honest about the subject, I never have been someone to get into something, really get deep into it, and then not aim for something that would be like a point of essentially some sort of success. Um, and I hate people that kind of bullshit you that will sit and tell you, I just do it because I love it. And don't get me wrong, I do really like it. It's not that, but it's also that I don't want to tell anybody that I don't care about making money. I do, of course, everybody does. And so, to be honest, I've always kind of thought, well, if I had the right circumstances and the right idea, and it was a time that I thought was right, I would love to do some sort of broadcast, stream, podcast, whatever, whatever it might be, to be able to actually do as a do as something that would not necessarily not necessarily career, but something that would be able to have some sort of lucrative uh, returns on it, and depending on how far I could go, who knows? I'll see what I can do. But I'm not going to say that I don't want that to happen, and I'm not going to say I'm not trying to make that happen because I am. And as such, being the kind of obsessive person that I am, I just kind of started collecting, and by that I mean my setup is not what I have seen before as far as the average streamer or I mean YouTuber or podcaster. I have a lot a pretty solid home studio setup that because it's also just full disclosure because I did do a short little demo album where I suck at electric guitar, but I'm not too bad on acoustic, and I had almost forgotten about it until my friend played it for me. There was some acoustic and vocal tracks, just acoustic and vocals, nothing else that I'd written, and he had me over one day, and he just wanted to record everything I had, and so I was like, okay, sure. It wasn't a lot. It was like 30 minutes, and I remember after I recorded it, I didn't really think much at the time, but like over a year later, I heard the same recordings. I was like, man, I wasn't too bad. It was kind of funny. But he was like, yeah, I tried to tell you. But I've never been able to do it again since then. And now that I know what I'm doing to a much greater extent, although you wouldn't know it right now based on everything that's been going on, I really did want to give another shot at kind of writing and recording my own acoustic vocal tracks. Nobody, but not many people are doing that anymore. That one is not necessarily to make anything out of it right off the gate, unless there was some kind of really large reaction that I thought was pretty positive to it from everybody that I was able to kind of show it to. But that is just a side note. The main thing is I've wanted to have a broadcast style setup for a long time. And towards the tail end of the last streams I was doing, I had most of the pieces together. And when I say pieces, I mean I'll just go over um, audio interface. It's also a mixing board. Got a preamp. Got compressor, equalizer, power conditioner, headphone amps. So a lot of stuff. And I had added one piece at a time. Excuse me, one piece at a time, and I never really bought one again until after I'd used it for quite a while. So it was a good situation to learn how to use everything individually and then add stuff later. But there was one issue because when I said, well, I don't know if anybody even heard it at this point, but when the first episode I did came out, I touched on the idea that early on when I was streaming with the last group of guys I was with, um, it was basically like it was a while ago before doing this show, and so I hadn't used my stuff in quite a while, and I had done like a handful of other things with it. Like I had done some call-ins. I had talked to people. I had used it to communicate in games occasionally. I'd had a few uses with it, but nothing for streaming or recording video. Um, so jumping on it, I had everything more or less set up for the last thing I did. Problem was, I added like the last mixer I had before this one was it was not exactly well, it wasn't bad, but then it went out. So like, or the first channel at least went out. It didn't it, it didn't last, and I was kind of disappointed because not that it was my you know ideal gear, but it is something that I kind of got talked into picking up, and I didn't go with my instinct on it, which is usually a much better idea for me because when people talk me into things, it's just like it can go all right, but it never ends up going as well as just getting what I originally had thought would be better for my setup in the first place. So I was basically okay. I'm going to need to get a new mixer. I did, and this one's much better, but it's obviously very different. And I had been fiddling with all of the settings on my on my Rex, but I I didn't really um, I didn't really spend too long getting everything dialed in specifically. And here's where I went wrong. It was because I was watching. I've always watched when I can the monitor on the streaming software, and just kind of use that as a gauge because I'm one of those people that um, hates hearing my own voice in the headphones while I'm recording or streaming. So I essentially didn't want to hear it back. I should have at least listened to it back and then started the stream to make sure it was good. But I never had a problem at all just going off of the monitor that's on streaming source. But the other thing that threw me for a loop was I had mentioned this before. Once again, I don't know if anybody heard it or not, but um, all of a sudden now, if you are going through Streamlabs specifically, and especially if you're going through Streamlabs OBS, there's really no way to uh, stream um, simultaneously on more than one platform, unless you have you pay their monthly fee for their, you know, whatever they call their stupid higher tier user, whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. I was just like, wait a minute, you used to be able to do this, and I know for a fact you used to be able to do this just based on the software. Why are you charging people now to have access to that function? And I don't really know, but I was like, well, hell with this stupid shit. I had to figure out something else, and I'd used regular OBS before Streamlabs OBS, and I figured, okay, I'll just do that. I didn't realize that there was also a problem there because they don't allow it either unless you pay. But there are plugins for standard OBS that you can use that are able to allow you to go live on multiple stream sources. And I was like, okay, great, that'll work. But it was not the easiest setup, and I was so focused on that. And when I got that working, I was like, okay, this should be good. There was also one other problem related to internet. I won't even go there, but there was a problem I was worried about with the internet connection being slow, and so my mind was in a bunch of places, and I wasn't paying attention, and that's when things go wrong. And as everybody who's seen knows, aside from the clips and things that I played from the computer, my microphone audio sounded like shit. Um, and when I say shit, I mean you couldn't hear me, and what you did hear was fuzzy at best. And so, first of all, um, I don't know what it was that day that threw it. Something alerted me to it first, and I don't remember what it was. But then also I went back and I noticed somebody had made a comment, and I got to thank this guy. I can't remember who his name is. Um, I don't. I'll have to give him a shout out maybe in the next episode or whatever. But I there was essentially a guy left a comment saying, "Hey, you need to check your mic, man. It sounds really bad." And I was like, I listened back, like, oh, that's an understatement. Holy shit, this sounds terrible. What the hell is going on here? So immediately I assumed it was the plugins and the software, because that was the most recent thing I changed. And I hadn't really thought through the whole idea that, wait a minute, you changed some settings on stuff to use it for other purposes, and um, now you're going back to doing a live stream with just the microphone and the streaming software. You're going to need to reset it to get everything set up correctly, especially the compressor. And I did not. And then there was also one other. Hold on, it's still blowing out all over the place. Hold on. That probably should help a little. Well, I'll just have to deal with it, I guess. Um, anyway, there was also like several aspects of the signal chain that I hadn't really made sure of. But there's one thing in particular that I didn't even know about, which was there's a button on the back of the compressor to it's without getting into the details. It's mostly meant to lower high end volume for the purposes of recording instruments, not vocals. And so basically, I had no idea that switch existed, and you can have it off or on. And I had it on to minimize the volume levels and needed to be on to add the extra decibels necessary for just standard voice recordings and streams to catch correctly. And once I flipped that switch on, I kind of recognized it. But the problem was I had no idea and the day before, like I saw the comment, I knew something was wrong. I tried fiddling around. I thought I could just change the setup of levels on everything, and because like I said, I'd never touched it. But with it being on the back, and I actually had moved stuff around, it may have gotten pressed when I'd been moving stuff. It probably did. And so anyway, that wasn't until like quite a bit later. But the next day, sitting down to start a recording, I remember I couldn't even get my vocals to come in at all, and the only way I could was to turn the gain up so high that it was making my voice sound like I was, talking through a fan or something. It sounded like industrial music or whatever, vocals like that. It was really, really, really fuzzy and really bad, and the volume was just going up, and it was just the same quality audio. It sounded terrible, and I was like, I was stupid. I did this. I started and I stopped. I started and I stopped. I kept getting frustrated, and then it's the day that I'm supposed to do the next show, and I just can't get this to work right. And then there was one other problem, and it's just like everything was just, oh my god, okay, this is completely fucked. And I kind of, I hate to, I don't want to sound like crazy or anything when I go on this part, but to be honest, um, the there's a reason that it took so long from the ideal idea or the conception of the idea of doing a show, um, and actually doing the first episode of it, and that took like over 3 years time to actually get there. And it's because of that, and I'm dead serious. It might sound crazy. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if I've been cursed or something. Like seriously, but like over the last couple of years, longer than that, probably about 4, 5, at least 4 years now. Um, I have had the most inexplicably, impossibly bad luck that somebody can have. I don't even know how to explain it. I have no idea how you have luck this bad. Because I could be doing something, everything goes fine literally every time, and then the one time where it really counts is just like everything goes wrong immediately, without a chance to respond, without a chance to do anything different, or um, I'm all ready to go and do something, or I've talked myself up, need to do something, internet goes out, or it's like just thing after thing after thing, and it always comes up at the worst possible times, and it always comes up when when I've been planning on doing something, and it's kind of got, it's not even so much that that itself has um, been the entire problem. It's that almost every time I do something that I think is significant, I always wince because I think something is going to go wrong, and it usually does. And but like now, that's caused this reflex action in me to be like, be assured that, oh man, something's going to get fucked up. I know it. I just know it. Something's going to go wrong. And so anyway, that combined with me being very critical of myself um, in terms of my endeavors. I never want to feel like I'm wasting time, and I never want to feel, especially in this situation, I never want to feel like I'm wasting anybody else's time. Um, so it 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 was. I'm sorry. Um, it was a situation where I needed to be sure that I was ready to go, and there was that sort of moment, in particular in the last year or so, and it's because I've been, um, like when I was younger. I've talked about this before, of course. Once again, you probably didn't hear it, but I I was really political when I was in my early 20s, and I was very up to date on things. That was also when I was doing my uh, time in college at my college newspaper, and so I was kind of already watching the news anyway. But I was really getting into just the news cycle in general and watching whatever was the topic of of the day and in any direction. And uh, after getting a full time job and then getting another job, and I was working 3 jobs at one point, and it was because I needed to do the tattoo apprenticeship, but I was also working one part time job, uh, 5 days a week, and then I also was what do you call well, geez, I was also a cameraman at our local AA hockey games, and I really enjoyed that job. I didn't want to quit, um, but when I started full time apprentice at the tattoo shop, I kind of had to pick, and I couldn't ditch my part time job that was stable, because the cameraman job, it was only during hockey season, and while I was making great money, it was only really because it was extra money on top of my salary. So it was really good financially, but I had to drop something, so I had to drop the cameraman job, and um, then I actually ended up kind of almost, you could almost say it was purposeful, but it wasn't exactly that way. But I was just more or less just counting the days, because as my apprenticeship ended, uh, I was expected to be at the shop from opening to closing on any day that I could be, and as soon as finances would allow it, to be there full time every day. Um, and so I was getting exhausted, and I ended up falling asleep at work several times. I don't even know if they noticed that part. They just noticed I was late all the time. But um, I eventually just got fired, and I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm out of here. I was by then I was the owner had handed the company off to his son. He wasn't the most pleasant guy to be around, and it just wasn't the same kind of working environment anyway. So I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. All right. It was just kind of a little too early to try to rely on that full time um, tattoo artist salary yet. So it kind of, excuse me, it kind of was a little unfortunate, but I still was making enough money to live off of. But um, due to a bunch of sad circumstances there, that didn't really pan out either. But going back to what I was focused on before, I've been always like I was just laying out. Everything I did was essentially either creative or media related or whatever. Even going back to college with journalism and news writing, and my focus there, I'd been made the entertainment and uh, editorial editor, um, and so that was where I wanted to be. And um, by the time I was reaching senior level in the journalism courses there, I was asked if there was another girl who wanted to do the wanted to take position of editor in chief, but she was a little nervous about being the only editor in chief. She didn't know if she could handle the full paper, and she asked me, since I'd been there longest, also. Uh, Along with her, we'd been there since basically we'd been there since the same amount of time, and she just asked if I would mind if I was co-editor in chief, and I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And it was a great time. I mean, it was we were both really chill, and I would imagine everybody that was reporting under us were glad that we were the editors. We were really chill to work for, and it was a fun time for everybody. But um, it was still something I took really seriously, even though at that point I knew journalism wasn't going to be for me. But I learned a lot of really good shit, and this was at community college, of course, mind you. But I didn't go to any kind of university or anything. But the important part I learned and kept with me from there was that if I really want to do something, I'm gonna pursue it, and I'm gonna keep pursuing it until I either am forced out somehow and can't do it anymore that way, or I recognize that this just isn't for me, and I'm just gonna voluntarily get out. Um, and the same thing goes for this. And I had felt like, okay, if I get into it now, um, we're still before the 2024 election, and I've got a ton of stuff to talk about, and I still do. I still got a ton of stuff. Luckily, the opening episodes have only touched on a handful of things that have really been going on, and I haven't been able to really go over my views on all that much yet. So that's the upside. Downside is that I hope that I haven't chased anybody away, because that was not at all the kind of launch I was hoping for when I was waiting all that time to start this show, and to make sure everything was working correctly and everything was working fine, and it would sound good. I obsessed over everything. I most definitely should have at least gone back and listened to some of the episodes. I have no excuse for not at least taking the time there, but um, unfortunately, I just ended up basically making the worst first impression I could possibly make. But just so you guys know, the reason I've been gone for as long as I have is because I was almost on the verge of just saying, okay, I guess I can't do this, because I had essentially believed that, like I said, this was going to just be another one of those things where everything was going to not go my way. Everything was going to be screwed up. Everything wasn't going to wasn't ever gonna like just work as I was hoping it to work, and but um, then I just kept fiddling with it, and I made a series, including the button on the back of the compressor I was talking about. I made a series of finds that really helped improve everything. But more than that, I've I've still been listening to what's been going on, and I got in a habit just before I started doing the show of basically like kind of checking out stories and kind of thinking about how I would react to it. And uh, oh boy, there's been some doozies in the last week, and in one hand, it's kind of a shame that I wasn't able to do a show about it, but at the same time, um, I think that it may have been a little too much because I would have gone way too long on all this stuff. But the point being that there really is nothing at all at this point that um, can convince me, at least for the time being, that I'm not doing something that is most certainly worth doing, and that I am confident I'm capable of doing. Um, and maybe it just was a sign of like, don't get lazy and don't get complacent. Do the shit you need to do to make sure it works. Um, but this event was just a setback, and I've been kind of reminding myself why I started doing it in the first place, and and look, I don't want to get too I don't want to go too deep into like thought process, but I'm fairly genuine when I say that uh, I have only a handful of actual streamers or YouTubers or video channels on Rumble, channels on whatever social media that I actually respect, because um, one day I'll go into more detail about this, but the um, the generation that really had the I'll just be blunt, the generation that really had the balls to say what should be said, what needed to be said, and uh, to really put into focus things that needed to be exposed. Uh, they are all kind of gone now, and or if they're not gone, they're not nearly as active. I gotta say, and this is the last thing this guy would want, but I'll just say it anyway. One of the last guys still holding on to that kind of uh, sort of mentality was Mr. Medicare, and he's obviously slowed down. If anybody's familiar with him, I'm sure many people are, but um, yeah, his health has been bad for years. He's talked about it several times, and seems like it's in really bad shape right now. And last stream I saw from him was actually just really depressing. But the dude is like the I kind of um, jeez well I won't go there. I'll just say that he's one of the old guard um, in the kind of representation of the people um, that would have been ideal to listen to if you want to know what's really going on in the underbelly of the internet in this case. And um, there are a handful of people like that that are also that way about the news or about current events anywhere. And there's, like I said, very few left, but there are some, but there's very few left. And I've come in with the mentality that, and by the way, this is kind of one of the most important things. I'm not the kind of person that's going to get all butt hurt and bent out of shape if somebody makes some jokes at my expense. I don't mind. Hey, I fucked up. I screwed up. The first week of streaming was really bad, and if somebody's gonna um poke fun at that, that's fine. That's fine. I deserve it. I deserve it. That's fine. Now, when people are genuinely using it to try and send a message because they want you to go away or they want you to be their punching bag or whatever, I'm not gonna not take a swing back. And you know that's kind of a different line. But when it's just having a laugh because somebody did something stupid, like, ah, I did something stupid. I'm not gonna cry and whine about it. I did something stupid. You have every right to laugh at me. Um, so don't think that I can't take it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Um, and I also um, want to be able to have a good time with everybody that watches the show when it's not at my own expense. So so just so you know, like my main goal is to make sure that I'm giving the people listening a something that is actually worth their time. And I said that early on, but just to reinforce that, I want it to be worth people's time to show up and actually hear the show and hear something different. Because one other good aspect to my personality is that I get obsessive, like I said, and I might be wondering, well, what does he watch to get it? I watch Congress, I watch the Senate, and the House. I watch um, all the um, uh, direct reporting on the government and from the government, and I also watch just about every kind of breakdown of it from each perspective that I can. Um, and just doing that much has proved to be enough to give me the leg up on just about every political discussion I have with people in my own life. So, um, no matter what it is that people know, and I'm not saying that I'm like, all I do is just watch and read what's going on during the day. I don't particularly have a specific skill set that lets me do that. Now, my perspective on it is based on my own lived experience and based on what I believe to be true and correct and right, both in terms of literal truth and also, what morally would be the most important thing to focus on. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people do that anymore. It's sad, but I watch a lot of political commentary, and it's like I see, unfortunately, a lot of it moving closer and closer to being more like legacy media. Then media is becoming more like online shows of any kind, um, and that really needs to stop. Like that really needs to stop if we're going to have any hope of having um, trustworthy sources for information. Because if the more independent-minded creators on online, which by the way, got just to get this off my chest, I'm I refuse. I don't care who wants to call other people this. The term influencer is so stupid. I hate that label. I'm not an influencer. I never will be an influencer, and neither are almost 99% even of the dumbasses that freaking always we influencers are fuck off. I'm sorry, but that is just a stupid name, and it's an absolutely ridiculous way to refer to yourself. So you'll never catch me now. I have no, I have no, you know, control over what other people do. So if you end up saying this about me, I might complain, but I can't do anything. Um, but you'll never catch me saying that. I'm not an influencer. I refuse to ever call myself an influencer. But that's just one of those examples of what I mean by, um, online people, online content creators, just starting to try to have some sort of weird image that they're trying to portray, where um, they're going off of an image that they portray and trying to emulate what they think that should be based on media that they've seen. and a lot of it being mainstream media that they've seen. Um, and this is true both the right and the left. I mean, it doesn't really matter which side of the aisle you're on, or if you're green, or if you're libertarian, or you're whatever you are. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I've been frustrated with all sides, in one time or another, and especially lately. But but at the same time, there still needs to be that counterbalance, because there are still people out there. I'd say Tucker Carlson is a great example. His best work has already come out, and it's already been heaps and heaps of it, and by n- huge magnitude, uh, already eclipsed his success at any other network by a huge margin. The content he puts out now is so much better than anything he did when he was with the media. Um, and and then some of the people that have been around the longest, there's some people that have stood the test of time and still can put out really good stuff. It's just a lot of people fall into a trap of feeling like they don't need to work as hard, or they need to branch out and do something different, or whatever it is. And that's when you get caught and you get screwed, and that's when your fan base leaves you and all that fun stuff. In which I've never reached a level to have a fan base worth really, um, definitely not worth bragging about. But that's not to say that um, I felt like I was doing it for nothing, because like I said, everybody out there that has taken the time to watch my show, and used their valuable time that they could use for anything to watch something I have to say. Like, I can't thank you guys enough. And so that's gonna always be my main goal, and behind that will be to see some kind of financial success come from it, no matter like I said, no matter how uh, large it is. If I can't, if it's not my primary form of financial success, that's not what I'm necessarily um, aiming at. Although I'm going to potentially aim to reach whatever kind of financial success I could reach, and by whether that's through uh, you know um, the uh, fan, what's the word? I'll just say fan funded, or whether that's through I'm sorry, promotion of you know advertisement, or businesses I agree with, or whatever form that might take. I will probably be open to considering any of those things, but I got to get the actual show going, and to do that, I'm gonna have to finally start paying more attention. But the main thing I wanted to say was just that I'm sorry I've been gone for this whole thing was a really really unfortunate beginning to what I had been trying to trying to get going for a long time, and the sort of immediate realization that, oh my god, everything that I've done up to this point is basically not only not usable but embarrassing. um, it was just overwhelming and too much to handle, and I just kind of fell apart for a couple days, and then I was like, am I gonna even do this or not? Like, what are you gonna do? And eventually, I finally came around. Like, I can't stop. I can't stop right now. It's not. It's not that I hadn't been doing anything that was probably, if it had gone according to plan, probably wouldn't have been an issue. I would have actually. I had been under the delusion that if it was fine, and some of them I was actually pretty happy with. Um, but turns out I wasn't because they didn't come through. Um, so it's a good sign, but it's more like a wake up call to, like, okay, time to actually roll your sleeves up and get to work and actually do this, and do it the way you're supposed to do it. So my apologies sincerely for starting, stopping, and kind of being missing in action for a few days. Um, for a week, actually, I think a little over a week. Um, but uh, but now that that's over, I've number one, like you can, I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure that this stream is coming in because, um, well, it's going to be filled with a few pops because I've been hitting the red a few times. I got this mic working the way it's supposed to now. Now I'm a little too loud. I got to fix that. But I also um, just before I was ready to do this, um, I, this never happens to me. I don't ever have this happen, but I fell into some money for I don't want to go into details, but the situation came up where I fell into some money, and it was going to be payment based. So that was only half the money. The other half is coming in soon, and I've already got one new piece of gear that is on the way as a replacement for one thing in my rack setup, and it's a huge upgrade from what I've been using for this whole time up till now. And there's one other thing I'm going to pick up after I do end up getting the money I'm supposed to pick up um, that will more or less complete my ideal setup for streaming for the time being. And unless something incredibly critical comes up that I really need something for, but I don't anticipate that's going to happen. But in any case, I'm still going to be taking steps to make sure that it not only sounds good, but that what I bring you guys is going to be great because um, I got to say that despite the fact that I I was right, and it was a good idea to start before the election, regardless, because there's going to be a lot of news. Um, there was kind of a downside to it that I didn't exactly expect, which was that uh, well, how do you call it? Well, everything's election related, and so the only thing people are going to talk about is news about the election, and so yeah, but I can get kind of worn out when it's a sort of just well, yeah, another day. They called Trump Hitler again, and Kamala had no answers again. Like it's just like here we go again. Okay, um, and there's been a few things I've wanted to talk about, but they're not exactly like occurring right now. They were uh, based on things that have happened, but they're relevant to the election regardless. So they could happen at any time, um, but they're still relevant as long as I do it before actual election day. So I'll be probably heading into discussions on those over the next couple days because yes, I will be returning. Frame Advantage will be rebooted, and I'll be able to hopefully this time have a little bit more. Um, well, not a little bit more, much better quality experience for everybody that's being able that's coming out to watch. And I don't think that I don't think that there'll be another. Although I can't say for sure, but I don't think there'll be another event like that will kind of take me by surprise, um, because it was a little jarring getting back into a scenario where I was I'd never done a daily stream, but first week I didn't miss a beat, even though it was all messed up. I didn't actually miss a show, so so there was that, but didn't exactly comfort me. But at the very least, I could say that I was pleasantly surprised at the fact that I was like, okay, yeah, you definitely do want to do this because you are doing the exact same thing you said you were going to do every day. So once again, just so you guys know the schedule and reinforce it, I'll probably put up some kind of graphic eventually, finally. But you can catch Frame Advantage every Monday through Saturday at 11 a.m. And I have been thinking about this. I think for the time being, I'm just going to go ahead and, I think I'm just going to switch it. 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific time. and the reason I say that is because uh, when I've been aiming for 11, no matter how early I start, it's not like I'm not giving myself enough time. It's just no matter how early I start, I always end up going a little too long and needing a little too much time. So I think it's just a matter of when I'm fully alert, awake, and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it to 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific. That'd be 2:30 to 3:30 Eastern time. And to my friends in the UK, because back in the gaming channel days, I know you guys were always watching Transatlantic Gaming. Shout out to my old gaming channel. To my friends over there, I believe that would be around 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. It might be 7:30 to 8:30, but I will make sure to keep posts coming more frequently on X as well. So once again, you guys, sorry for going missing in action. I'm really sorry about the way this show took off. It was a bad look, and it just definitely was not the way I hoped things to go. But from here on out, I think we'll have things under control, and it should be a much more. Well, I'll just put it this way: you'll at least be able to hear the show from here on out. So, thank you guys so much for. Thank you guys. I very, very much appreciate everybody that stuck around, check out the show, and thank you to everybody. And to the guy that actually left a comment and mentioned the audio quality. Thank you. You really did. You really made me fully aware and able to deduce exactly what was going on. So thanks again. I was wrong with the diagnosis in my reply, but at the very least, I was. I responded to it immediately afterwards, trying to figure out what it was, and sure enough, I did. But now I got that figured out. Once again, sorry for the delay. Sorry for giving in to the whole poor me. I feel like shit kind of scenario. But I'm back. I'm feeling much better, and I think that there won't. Well, that I can't say anything like that. Who knows what will happen? But either way, thank you guys. I'll be back. I'm planning to be restarted tomorrow, but if not, it'll be the next day. Either way, I'd like to get it started as soon as possible. Cause there's only about a week away from the election, so and I don't know if there's going to be any very specific election coverage that I'm going to need to go over, but one thing's for sure, there's still tons and tons and tons. I've been clipping stuff left and right, trying to get it ready. So even though the show wasn't going on, I haven't been, haven't been not keeping up with making sure. Okay, if this is something I would want to talk about, I'll have it in the stash and be ready to go whenever I can use it. So, I got plenty of stuff to do, and hopefully, I think you guys will enjoy it. I definitely do. So, once again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in next couple days with Frame Advantage's return.